It's that time. The NFL playoffs are here. We've been waiting for it all season long, and I've teamed up with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official partner of the NFL, who's kicking things off with a huge offer. Throughout the playoffs, all new customers, that's all new customers, will get $200 in bonus bets instantly when they place their first $5 wager on anything. Get in on the action this weekend by downloading the DraftKings app, and don't forget to use my promo code 365sports. That's right. Customers who bet $5 will get $200 in bonus bets instantly. But you say, Paul, I signed up for the DraftKings app the first time you told me to. Well, guess what? If you've already signed up for it, like I have, you get a no sweat bet, and that's if you get a bonus bet back if your same game parlay does not hit. Max limits do apply. And if sports betting is not available in your area, don't worry. You can still join in on all the fun with the DraftKings Daily Fantasy and have the chance to win cash prizes. I've done that as well. Love it, love it, love it. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers use my promo code 365sports. Bet $5 on any wager and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code 365sports only at DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours.
He's been our go-to guy yesterday with WJOX in Birmingham. Pat Smith joins us on 365 Sports, also three-man front. Pat, yesterday we were trying to figure out just the reaction to Saban's retirement, and then all of a sudden I started to wonder how long this might linger, but Burns said within 72 hours, Crimson Tide have Kalen DeBoer. What's been the reaction in Birmingham?
It has been overwhelming. There was a little bit of trepidation as the morning kind of progressed because once again, you had all these signs overnight. You had Steve Sarkisian getting the extension there at the University of Texas. His name had kind of garnered a little bit of steam yesterday afternoon and night. And then you had Mike Norvell. The situation happened there. So as this thing was playing out during our live radio show today, you could tell that the fan base was getting a little bit nervous. Then all of a sudden you start hearing the names of Dabo Swinney and maybe even Lane Kiffin, who very early on in the process, since Wednesday, had not been a name that had been out there very much. So, but once it became official, not official because it hasn't been, Alabama hasn't acknowledged it with a press release, but it is done. But with the fans, they finally said, you know what, let's take a deep breath here. Let's take a look at this guy as a head coach. And overall, they are pleased with the hire.
Pat, he is stepping into a situation where you cannot equal what's happened with Nick Saban. Like, nobody probably ever will. And especially given the way that games are changing, how do you expect the fan base will give him any rope to find Kalen DeBoer, the Alabama coach, as opposed to be exactly what Nick Saban was immediately?
Well, I mean, that is going to be the million-dollar question in the state of Alabama, because a lot of these fans, especially the young ones, they do not remember time before Nick Saban. They don't remember the days of a Mike Shula or a Mike Price scandal in which he didn't even make it to the field as the head coach, or Dennis Franchione. I could go on about those lean years in which Alabama, it would take them 4 or 5 years to be just sniffing an SEC West title. It's going to take them a little time. But one thing is for sure, it's going to be important for him to try to hold on to this roster. Already 19 players have gone in the transfer portal after the semifinal game in the CFP. So now here comes the fun part. What kind of staff is he going to put together? How is he going to be able to recruit in these shark-infested waters that is the SEC? Because as we all know, Nick Saban did it as well as anybody. He would do it 24/7. He would win a national championship, guys, and he literally would be in the locker room for a few minutes, and then he would be out on the telephone talking to a recruit, trying to get somebody lined up to either visit or to come to the university on a recruiting trip. So it's just something that he is going to have to maybe put in his rearview mirror, whatever they did in the Pac-12. I know that he was successful the last couple of years on the field, but the lifeblood of any program, as you guys know as well as anybody, it's recruiting. So he's going to have to bring that type of atmosphere to Tuscaloosa to try to keep up with the Joneses of the Georgias, the LSUs, and the Texases of the world.
I know part of what I'm about to ask you, Pat, is part of the puzzle pieces that we're going to start figuring out here over these next few days and weeks. But where does your mind go immediately when it comes to Jalen Milroe after this Kalen DeBoer hire?
Well, first off, you see what Michael Penix was able to do the last 2 years up in Seattle, so that's exciting. You've already had some wide receivers, guys that are not in the transfer portal because Bama had a big one going to the portal earlier today. More than likely, he's going to end up at Texas, Isaiah Bond. But most of the wide receivers, they've gone on social media. As of right now, not even meeting him yet, but just looking to what they have done offensively over the last couple of years, they seem to be excited. Jalen Milroe has not really said anything yet. I think I mentioned this yesterday on the show with you guys. You know, the Alabama veteran leadership, which Jalen Milroe is a part of, they were very important with after the announcement of Nick Saban of trying to get everybody to understand, hey, look, you need to wait things out before you go in the portal, kind of sift through whoever the new guy is. Let's meet him. Let's talk to him. Let's see what he's all about. But Jalen Milroe will be a big key. You would think with the offensive hire of Grubb, who, again, Alabama looked at last year, who was DeBoer's offensive coordinator there in Seattle. Word is he's probably going to get the first look to replace him there in the Pacific Northwest. And if that happens, you wonder if Tommy Rees will be sticking around for a second year as the OC at Bama. And if that happens, I think that's good news for Jalen Milroe. But seeing the body of work of Michael Penix, I think Jalen Milroe has to be excited to know that you got an offensive guy, a guy that played wide receiver as an All-American. I know it was a lower level in college. He's got to be excited about that.
What were your thoughts on him from what we saw in the early season benching and all of that to what you saw by the end of the year? How would you, I guess, summarize and describe his year and what you thought after all that experience?
Well, he reminded me a lot of what happened with Jalen Hurts. Now, Jalen Hurts wasn't benched. Jalen Hurts didn't go through some of the things that Milroe did because we saw a little bit of Milroe the year before, but Texas A&M almost beat him in Bryant-Denny Stadium because of all the turnovers he had. But you saw maturity with him. You saw a leadership role that he was taking with the football team. And as Tommy Rees gained his sea legs, so to speak, with this offense and what he wanted to do, you could tell the comfort level went up. His decision-making was off the charts good, only throwing one interception, having one turnover over the last month or so of the season. That was huge. So I think that at that point in time, that's where the confidence level grew with Jalen Milroe, and I think that's why the fans were very excited when he announced that he was coming back.
Pat, they've lost, you mentioned, 19 guys out of the portal. Do you expect maybe some Washington guys to come with Kalen DeBoer?
I really do. And I think a lot has to do with the fact of where Alabama's going to be in the next couple of days with the portal. That was another important way or decision that Greg Byrne had to make in regards to making this a quick hire because they had to shore up this roster. And so with that being said, I think he's going to have to come in here because it is inevitable, guys. There's going to be more fellas that's going to go on the portal because you keep this in mind. There's a lot of people that wanted high-end talent, wanted to come to Alabama, not only because they wanted to be able to play at the University of Alabama, but they knew the propensity that Nick Saban had to put players in the National Football League, and they wanted to play for Nick Saban. So there is going to be an attrition. There are going to be guys that's going to leave the university just because Nick Saban's not there. I mean, it could have been you name the NFL coach that got dropped into Tuscaloosa this week, and they still would have gone in the transfer portal because it wasn't Nick Saban.
So, Pat, the recruiting of what DeBoer will now have, he's going to recruit players to Alabama. Most of his classes at Washington, he wasn't there long, are going to be in that 20 to 30 range as far as overall rankings, not that they always matter. How important will the staff he hires around him be with recruiting as much as what he can do?
Well, it's going to be very important, and that's why, some of the staff members that's currently on the staff at Alabama. Now, Kevin's still the defensive coordinator. He already announced his retirement before Nick Saban did, so he wasn't coming back. Tommy Rees has still got a contract there at the University of Alabama, the offensive coordinator. Will he be retained? There's a lot of other really great recruiters on that staff. Some defensive coaches, will they get an opportunity to be retained? So it's going to be very important for him to at least have a few guys around this program that has been able to go up and recruit against the big guys in college football in the Southeastern Conference. Needless to say, Alabama's facilities, everything that he will have at his disposal will be off the charts different than what he had in Washington. But he did prove one thing, and that's the most important thing, is that he was able to develop 3- and 4-star talent and put his team at least it looked like about a quarter and a half from winning a national championship against Michigan. So that's what excites the potential for the Alabama fandom.
Pat, you kind of touched on some of the nerves that were building earlier, but had DeBoer done that radio interview in Washington like scheduled and said, I'm sticking around, I mean, do you have any clue of what the next move would have been and how much panic would have set in Tuscaloosa? I mean, we'll never know, but I mean, you had to at least been thinking about, oh my gosh, if this guy doesn't want the job, then where do they go next?
Well, that was the thing. Once we saw this morning that radio view was canceled because, we thought, okay, he does the interview. You know what's going to happen? He's going to go in there. You're going to see, just like Dan Lanning did yesterday or Steve Sarkisian did last time on social media, it was going to be like, hey, we're here. We're committed. We love it here. And, let's move on. Go Huskies. But once that took place, we go, okay, there's a potential here that not only is he in play, but he potentially is going to be ultimately the guy. But if he would have ultimately said no, I had always thought, and I think I mentioned it to you guys yesterday, I thought Mike Norvell was the guy that on the original list was probably 4 or 5 deep. He was going to become maybe the safety net type candidate. But then when Norvell got a $10 million new contract a year in Tallahassee, that's when folks start going, okay, now where are we at here? That's when I think ultimately you would have had the names of Lane Kiffin and Dabo Swinney. I think both those individuals were interested in the job. I know Lane Kiffin for a fact. He would have walked from Oxford, Mississippi for the job in Tuscaloosa. He would have walked there, I promise you. But there's obviously some people that's going to make the hire in Tuscaloosa did not feel comfortable giving him the keys to the candy store, talking about Lane Kiffin. But that is an interesting story that maybe one day Greg Byrne would be able to tell us. Because officially, guys, he never offered the job to Dan Lanning. You guys know better than anybody how this stuff works with agents. And so it's Jimmy Sexton, basically is the puppeteer, the puppet master when all this stuff goes on. So no job was offered to Dan Lanning, but he took the opportunity to get probably a pay raise and to get some slogans printed on some Nike T-shirts. And then likewise, Steve Sarkisian. I mean, I was told yesterday afternoon that the first offer that Texas had given him on a contract extension, he wasn't very happy about. So guess what? His agent needed leverage, and he got it because Alabama was interested. Yep. So boom, he gets a new deal. So man, that's the tough thing to see what was going to happen because some folks in the media were reporting names like Mike Locksley and Eli Drinkwitz and people like that. And I'm just telling you right now, that would not have flown. So somebody would have been looking to replace Greg Byrne if those were the names that was brought to the Board of Trustees to vote on.
Tommy Reese wouldn't have been the next guy?
No.
No, it wouldn't have.
That would have been
Alabama.
Yeah, that would have been implosion right there.
No, that would not have happened. You don't replace the greatest of all time with Tommy Reese. That's just that would not have gone over well at all for Greg Byrne.
But think about the life experience he gained in just that one interview.
Exactly right. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
that'd be unbelievable.
Pat, I almost thought that it was going to be a baller move by Saban if this thing would have dragged on and gotten uncomfortable. That Saban would have said, hell, F it. I have an office here. I might as well just coach one more year, which I know that was not going to happen. But, man, if this thing would have lingered much longer, I think there would have been a clamoring for that.
Well, yeah, I think so. And, one thing is for sure, guys, Nick Saban is still with us. Nick Saban did not die 2 days ago. Nick Saban just retired. Nick Saban is still integrated in this program. He was calling players. He was calling recruits yesterday. He was trying to make sure everybody was on the same page. Don't think for a second that Greg Byrne did not have a long, lengthy conversation multiple times about what Nick Saban thought about Kalen DeBoer. If Nick Saban didn't think Kalen DeBoer was a good football coach or an excellent football coach, he would not even be in the conversation. So with that being said, I think Nick Saban probably was a little bit more comfortable with the situation, but you know how us fans and guys in the media are. I mean, we start freaking out and we want to speculate this or that or the sky is falling. But for the most part, most Alabama fans right now, guys, it really is. Probably 3 out of 4 Alabama fans are going to tell you they're extremely pleased with this hire.
Pat, they lost Bond into the portal. He's probably going to end up, there's thoughts that he could end up right back at, not back at, but go to Texas, and they, of course, are able to pick and pluck and whatever. What about Downs, who was such a huge Nick Saban? How much influence, even though he's gone, there but gone will he have on someone like that who he really loved Caleb Downs?
No, there's no doubt about it. And it's funny because we had so many people reach out to us, and there was like, say, please tell us that Alabama in this NIL world, please tell me that they're going to just give him whatever is necessary to keep him there in the secondary. He was very quick on social media today, guys, in which he was posting all of this potential or positive Alabama stuff on his Instagram reels, things of that nature. So the people that I talk to in Tuscaloosa, they tell me that he is good to go. I think the Alabama athletic department has made it perfectly clear, and I think Caleb Downs knows, especially with the leadership of Ty Moore, who will get an extra year of eligibility because of COVID-19. He will have his sixth year to play next year. Number 13 on the defense. He played the star position. He was one of the team captains this year. He's coming back, and him and Caleb Downs are close. So the Bama front, as of right now, they feel pretty good about Caleb Downs staying put.
Pat, great stuff. Co-host of Three Man Front, also WJOX in Birmingham, which is a motherlode of a radio station. And also, thanks for your time and enjoy. Now, although you still have work to do, it's a never-ending deal. You could at least have somewhat of a better weekend and enjoy it.
There is no doubt about it. Guys, always my pleasure.
You
Thanks
too,
for
buddy.
calling.
Great stuff, Pat Smith. Man, he's really good at what he does.